So this is a story worth paying attention to. This week's investigation has to do with what happens to felons after they get out of prison. We're talking about 143,000 of them right now in Florida. Many of them very well behaved, but that's largely because they've got Department of Corrections probation officers keeping an eye on them. But 10 Investigates called out state leaders a year ago for basically neglecting this super important group of cops. How bad was it? We found offices of nearly 20 probation officers sharing a single vehicle with hundreds of thousands of miles on it. Keeping an eye on hundreds of felons while sharing a single jalopy is like one person trying to count every empty seat at Tropicana Field on Pat Burrell bobblehead night. You just don't have the resources to do it. Race fans know what I mean. But it gets worse. Probation officers haven't gotten a real raise in 9 years, so the state is trying to hire good officers while paying them a fraction of what they can and do make at neighboring agencies. 10 Investigates exposed all these things last year, and naturally the governor and legislature did nothing, putting your safety at risk again. But it gets worse. They're also jeopardizing their own officers' safety, because if probation officers in Florida want to carry a firearm as they conduct these unannounced home visits of convicted murderers and sex offenders, they've got to purchase that firearm themselves on their $33,000 a year salary.
I can tell you there are probation officers who want to carry on duty and have chosen not to because they can't afford a firearm.
They've got to buy their own guns. That's like asking our firefighters to buy their own hoses or shirts. And we know if you don't buy shirts for firefighters, they're probably going to go without them. Yet despite Florida's booming economy and record budget, where lawmakers doled out hundreds of millions of dollars in pet projects this year, the state keeps finding a way not to fund probation officers. State spending is up 17% since Governor Scott was elected, and most agencies have seen healthy budget boosts. The Department of Corrections, though, their spending actually down 4% since 2010. Look, there's just no excuse for this. The governor knows about the challenges. He would rather just talk about
jobs, and more jobs.
But at the end of the day, the buck has to stop with Scott.
Did you know they have to buy their own guns?
The poor business owner planted behind the governor when we went to ask tough questions couldn't even keep a straight face. And why should he? We're only talking about the lives of a couple thousand cops.
Did you know they have to buy their own guns?
I know that the way the process works, there's been a lot of conversation about that, and they've had conversations in the legislature about that.
Look, probation supervision is a serious issue, and it's been largely ignored by Florida's leaders, which is why 10 Investigates is going to keep calling attention to it until these dedicated men and women get better funding, or until we raise a few $1 million through our special probation-themed bake sale.